Okay, so what we're going to look at here is the 2019 Paper 1, Question 8 for the Leave Insert ordinary level. Okay, the power P of an engine is measured in horsepower using the formula P is equal to R over T divided by 5,252, where R is the engine speed measured in revolutions per minute, and T is the torque measured in appropriate units. Find the power of the engine that generates 480 units of torque at 2,500 revolutions per minute. Give your answer correct to the nearest whole number. Okay, so they told us there that R was equal to the engine speed, and we can see that that's measured in revolutions per minute. Okay, so the engine speed will be 2,500. Similarly, they also told us the torque, and the torque was 480 units of torque. Okay, so we'll start that question now, and what you can do there is you can say that R is equal to 2,500 and T is equal to 480. Okay, so if we're gonna fit in that formula, P will be equal to R, which is 2,500, all multiplied by T, which is 480, all divided by 5,252. Okay, so all we need to do now is we just need to type that into the calculator, and if you type that into the calculator, you'll get an answer of 228.48438. Okay, so they wanted us to round that there to the nearest whole number. So what we'll do is give your answer correct to the nearest whole number, which is important. So to round that to the nearest whole number, we'll come down here. We'll look at the number that follows. So our answer there, P should be approximately equal to 228, because this number here, the 4, if that was 5 or greater, then that would have to round up to 9. Because this is less than 5, we just leave it round off to 228. And that there was worth 5 marks that year. Okay, so that brings us on to part 2. So with part 2, it said to rearrange the formula to write R in terms of P and T. Okay, so I just wrote out the formula that was given in the question. So we were given that in the first part of the question. So they want you to rearrange the formula to write R in terms of P and Q. So if it says in terms of, that means that we need to get the R's by themselves. Okay, so we need to get the R's by themselves. So we want to get that R there by itself. How we do that is we get rid of everything that's attached to it. Okay, so at the minute we can see that we've got a numerator and a denominator. So we have a fraction equals to something. If we want to get rid of the fraction, which obviously we do, what we need to do is, you can see here, this R times T, at the minute, that's been divided by 5,252. So to get rid of that fraction, I do the opposite and I multiply both sides by 5,252. So if I multiply the left-hand side by 5,252, I'll get 5,252p. But if I multiply the left-hand side by 5,252, I have to multiply the right-hand side by 5,252, and that leaves me with R times T. Okay. Now, just for anyone that's not sure what actually happened there, I multiplied the left-hand side by 5,252, as you can see, and I multiplied the right-hand side by 5,252, and you'll notice that these will cancel, and I'm just left with R times T. Okay, so that turns into that, and that's just R times T. Now, the question asks us to get R by itself. So if I want to get R by itself, I need to look at what's happening R. So if I look at what's happening R there, currently I'm multiplying it by T. So if I want to get rid of that T on the right hand side, if I want to get the R by itself, which I do, then I need to divide both sides by T. So I'll get 5,252p all divided by T. And typically what we do is we make R equals. So we'll just put down R equals 5,252p divided by t. Okay, and that there was worth 10 marks. So part B. A company was set up in January 2016 to repair engines. In the first month of its existence, the company made a loss of 4,000. This loss reduced by 250 a month for each month that the company traded. Okay, so we can see there that they made a loss of 4,000, and after the first month, so when we got into the second month, it was 250 less. Okay, so what we're going to have to do is add 250. We're going to be adding 250, adding 250, and obviously adding 250. Okay, so we'll go to the month 3. So if we take month 2, we were at minus 3750. If we add 250 to that, you can type it into the calculator, but you should know that will end up being minus 3500. So minus 3500 can go in there. Okay, for the next one, so for month 5, we'll take month 4 figure, which is 3,250, and we'll add 250 to it, and that'll give us negative 3,000. Okay, so negative 3,000 for the 5th month. For the 6th month, it's going to be negative 3,000 plus 250. And if you'd done that, you would have got negative 2,750. Okay, so you should be able to fill those values in. And if you fill them in, you would have got 5 marks. So that brings us on to the next part of that question, which is part 2. Okay, it says, show the profit that the company makes in months can be given by the following formula, where T of n is equal to 250n minus 4,250. Okay, so when we see the T of n there, we know we're dealing with sequences and series basically. So we'll have a quick look at the log tables there, and you can see that sequence and series is on page 22. Okay, so with your log tables there on page 22, you can see that we've got sequence and series. T of n is the nth term, S of n is the sum of the terms, but we're not looking for the sum of the terms. So T of n, and you can see we've got T of n here, and we've got T of n here. So we need to make sure we're able to read the log tables. So if we go through them, we've got arithmetic sequence and series here, and geometric sequence and series here. What we're dealing with is a linear sequence and series, and that falls in as an arithmetic sequence and series. Okay, so the T of n that we're going to be using will be this one. So T of n is equal to a plus n minus 1 times d. And it tells us in the log tables that a is going to be the first term, and that d is going to be the common difference. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to go back and look at the pattern that we started with, and we need to see how we can link that back in with this formula here. So we need to know that the a represents the first term. So in our pattern, let's go back and look at it. So we can say that a is the first term, so we can say that a is equal to, in this case, negative 4,000. Because that was the first term. And we can say that d, or the common difference, is the difference between each terms, and we can see there the common difference between our terms, it's a linear pattern, and it's plus 250. Okay, so we can use that information now to solve our T of n. So T of n will be equal to a, which was negative 4,000, plus n minus 1 times d, which was 250. So T of n will be equal to negative 4,000 plus, and what we're going to do here is we're going to multiply this out. So 250 times n gives you 250n. And 250 times negative 1 gives you negative 250. So T of n will be equal to, if we collect our numbers together, so negative 4,000 minus 2,500 more will give us negative 4,250 plus 250 n. And you can see the way we had this at the start, T of n, so T of n is equal to, now they put the numbers first, the letters first, so 250n minus 4,250. So let's rearrange it like that. T of n is equal to 250n minus 4,250. So you can see there that we've done what we were asked to do. And that question there, that year, was worth 10 marks. So we'll just move on there to the next part of the question, which is part 3. So it says, what profit does the company make in January 2018? Okay, so they want to know what the profit will be in January 2018. And it tells you there that's going to be 25 months in. Okay, so that means after 25 months. So if you just look back at the formula that we just created there, right, T of n represents the number of months and T of n represents the profit, okay? So if we put the number of months, if we put 25 in, like we were asked to do here, so if we put 25 months in, we'll be finding out what the profit is after 25 months, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We'll take the formula that we just generated and we'll fill in 25 for n. You can see there the formula for T of n was equal to 250n minus 4,250. So what they've asked us to find is when n is equal to 25, what the outcome will be. So T of 25. And all we need to do is we simply just replace n with the number 25. So 250 times 25 minus 4,250. And if you were to just work that out, so if you were to type this into your calculator, it will tell you what T of 25 is, and T of 25 gives you an answer of €2,000. So the profit that the company will make after 25 months, well, what they'll make in January 2018, which is 25 months in, they'll make €2,000 profit that month. So the answer is €2,000 profit. Okay, and if you got that correct, there was actually 5 marks going for that question. So part 4, it says find the month at which the company breaks even, i.e. 0 profit. Okay, so again we need to take T of n. So T of n is equal to 250n minus 4,250. Now what we need to do is we need to have a look at this and think, right? So what they're actually asking us is based on what we've done previously in the question. So when the company first started off, they owed €4,000 and every month they made 250. Okay, so every month they made 250, and we could see that earlier in the question. Okay, we formed T of n based on this information. So we formed T of n based on this information. And what T of n actually tells us is if I put 1 in for n, it tells me that after the first month, I'll get an answer of 4,000, because if I put 1 in, that turns into 250 minus 4,250, which gives you an answer of 4,000. If I put 2 in for n, 2 goes in there and that turns into 500. If I add 500 to this negative 4,250, I get an outcome of this. If I put 3 in for n, I get an outcome of this. Okay. If I put 4 in, I get an outcome of this. If I put 5 in, I get an outcome of this. And if I put 6 in, I get an outcome of this. What the question's asking me now is what number can I put in order to get an output of 0. Okay. So to get an outcome of 0. So what I'm going to do there is I'm going to put in my outcome and I'm going to try and find my number. So my outcome is going to be equal to 0 is equal to 250n minus 4,250. Okay? And you can see now that we've got an equation there. So we formed an equation and the only unknown is n. So I need to get a value for n. So I'll bring the negative 4,250 over to the left hand side and I'll end up with 4,250 is equal to 250n. Okay? Now to get n by itself, what I need to do is I need to divide both sides by 250. So 4,250 divided by 2,500 will give us n. So n in that case, if you type that into the calculator, you would have got 17. So that means that n is going to be 17. So that means it's going to be 17 months into the business, you could say, right? So 17 months in, 12 months in will obviously be December because we started in January. So 12 months in will be December. So 13 months in will be January. 14 months in will be February. 15 months in will be March. 16 months in will be April. So 17 months in will be May. So my answer there will be May. Okay, and had you completed that, 17 months in, the answer being May, you would have received 5 marks. Okay, so the next part there, find S of n, the general term for the total profit of the company after n months. Okay, so again we'll need to look at the log tables. So we're back here on page 22 and we're dealing with an arithmetic sequence, which is a linear sequence, and we're looking for S of n, and it tells us there that S of n is equal to n over 2 all multiplied by 2a plus n minus 1 times d. Okay, and it tells us that a is the first term and that d is the common difference. So we're back to the same thing again. We knew the first term, it told us that a is equal to first term, and the first term was equal to negative 4,000. And we know that the common difference was plus 250 each time. Okay, so what we can do there is we can fill that in. And we can say that S of n is equal to n over 2, which isn't going to change, all over 2 times a, so 2 times negative 4,000, plus n minus 1 times the common difference, which is 250. Okay, the next step is just to expand everything there. So S of n is equal to, I'm just going to expand out these two sections first. So I'll expand this and I'll expand this. Okay, so n over 2 times negative 8,000 plus 250n minus 250. Okay, so S of n will be equal to n over 2 multiplied by minus 8,250 plus 250n. Okay. The next step there is very simple. What I'm going to do is S of n, I'll do it in 2 steps. So what I can do is I can divide everything inside here. So what I'm doing is I'm multiplying all this by n, and then what I need to do is divide it by 2. Okay, so if I was to deal with this, if I dealt with that like a fraction, I'd multiply this, put this over 1, and I can multiply my 2 numerators. So I'd be multiplying n by everything inside here, and then I'd be dividing all of that by 2. So minus 8,250 n plus 250 n squared, and that's all being divided by 2. Okay, so let's just go over that one last time. So if you had a fraction multiplied by a fraction, it'd be much easier. So if we put all this over 1 and multiply the numerators, so this would be a numerator and this would be a numerator. So if we multiply them together, we get n times this gives us this, and n times this gives us this. So the n will just turn 10n squared, and it's all going to be divisible by 2. So what that will turn into is that s of n will be equal to S of n will be equal to 4,125 n, okay, plus 125 n squared, okay. And if we were to, typically what we do is we put the n squares first for quadratics. So what we will be writing there is that S of n is equal to 125 n squared plus 4125 n. And that there was worth 10 marks. Just an interesting point to make there on that is if you got down as far as here, they gave you the full 10 marks that year. Okay, so the extra steps there, if you got them out, brilliant, but they actually allocated full marks if you got as far as this step this year. Okay, so we'll just move on to the final part of that question. And the final part of that question said, hence or otherwise, find the total profit of the company at the end of January 2019, i.e. after 37 months. So we're telling you the value for the number of months. So all you need to do is you need to take the formula that we just calculated, which was the sum of the months. So we need to take the S of n formula that we just calculated, and instead of putting in n, we can put in 37. So if we just go back there and look, we'll take the final version. So we'll take this here. So we'll take S of n is equal to 125 n squared plus 4,125 n. Okay, so we'll bring that down. So we have that formula there. And what we're going to do now is instead of n, we're going to put in 37. Because you can see there that n is equal to 37. So S of 37, which is the sum of the first 37 months, is 25 times 37 all to be squared, minus 4,125 times 37 as well. And that gives us, if you were to type that into your calculator, S of 37 will give you an answer of 18,500. Okay, so we're looking at find the overall profit. So the overall profit there for your answer will be 18,500. And if you had completed that, you would have got 5 marks that year for that question.